Hello and welcome to the Red Bra Project YouTube channel. I am here alone tonight. Miss Renee is busy with a large scale event that she is doing and we will miss her dearly. But welcome to our Women Crush Wednesday episode number 29. I'm so excited to have our guest tonight. Lisa Goins is here and I'm going to turn it over to you a minute, Lisa, to kind of introduce yourself and say hello to our audience. Thank you so much for being here.
I am excited to be here, Shauna, after all we've been through. It's good to be here. I'm Lisa. So I came across you guys on Instagram, which I love following the Red Bra Project. So, and all that you do with supporting women. But I've been married for almost 27 years this year. I can't believe it. Like next month will be my 27th wedding anniversary. And we have 4 grown kids. And with twins in the middle. So when our 4 kids were born, they were age 3 and under. So we literally had like this little cluster of kids and, that we just grew them up as a group and had them all in college. And now they're either finished with college or exiting college. So we're super excited about that. And my husband and I pastor a church here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So that's an exciting part of our life as well. And I'm an online business owner. I have a Surprise Gift Co., which is a custom gift company. And then I just recently wrote a book. So lots of exciting things happening.
Yeah, definitely. And congratulations. That is an amazing
accomplishment.
We're going to talk about your skincare regimen, I think, because you do not look like you could possibly be married that long and have grown children.
Thank you very much.
And Lisa is referencing what we took to get here. Man, we're in technical difficulties without Renee. She is my apparently right-hand man when it comes to hitting button, so.
It must be the 2 blondes that we have going on for tonight, right?
I think that's what's happening. Tonight, my red bra moment was just getting recorded. But you have such an interesting story, Lisa. I mean, just really, if you can share more about your background and where you are now to being, to pastoring and really kind of began and how you probably never saw yourself where you are today.
Yeah, it's so true. I think that's the exact probably definition of my life, is someone who set out to do something and ended up in the exact opposite place than you could have ever imagined for yourself. And that was just my life. So I didn't grow up in church. I had an uncle who would take me when I was younger. So I was in and out of church just a little bit, but I had just a very tumultuous childhood. My parents were each married 3 times and there was alcoholism in the home and just lots of dysfunction and sexual abuse and some of the things that come along with that. So that was my childhood growing up. I can remember back in elementary school, I went to 9 different schools by the time I was in 5th grade. I literally was never planted anywhere very long. And so I definitely wasn't groomed for the ministry and didn't head in that direction in college at all. And so how I got there was really actually an amazing story. So by the time I was making my own decisions, when I got into college, I really just headed out on my own. I really wanted to be like a corporate girl. I wanted to live in a big city. I maybe thought I would get married. Didn't really ever assume I would have kids. I just thought those aren't on the radar for me. I didn't have a very good background growing up. I never thought I would be a good mom. And so that really wasn't a thing for me. But then when I got into college, I just really, fear just overtook my life. So my actual goal in college became, what classes could I take that keep me from standing up in front of a class and having to give a speech? I couldn't, I don't know. I just kind of shut down. Feared. I was afraid to speak in public and in front of people. And I think it was just a lot of hiding in the background who I was, I really had perfected, even in elementary, middle school, definitely by high school, I had perfected being able to show up at school and I, make straight A's. I had good grades. And I realized pretty early on that if you looked the part, if you looked like you were put together, your clothes matched, you looked okay, if you had a smile on your face and said you were fine, people just believe you. And so I really hid all that was going on in my home life from anybody that knew me at school. And so I felt like I was kind of living a double life. And when I took that into college, it just kind of all started to implode. I was on my own and and just couldn't really keep up that facade. And so that was really that time in my life where I made a lot of poor choices. That 18 to 22. Sheesh, that was some rough times.
I think many people could probably resonate with that age frame of bad decisions.
Yeah,
but.
it's true. It happens to a lot of us. And it did for me. I was in and out of relationships. I was, kind of a typical sorority girl. A lot of my friends were doing that, so I took that path. And again, never really opening up to anyone that there were problems in my life. Just kind of, Lisa, she's always fine. She's always happy, And but it led to some seriously poor choices in my life, which probably the darkest moment when I got into college. It was my junior year, and I can remember laying in bed late one night and just being in a deep, dark place and thinking, I think this is it. I don't know. My life is going nowhere. And I just was losing my motivation to do anything. And I don't think I was really suicidal. I just think I thought, I'm not getting out of bed the next day. I might just stay here. And what had happened is that I had just had my second abortion in college. And nobody knew, except for the person I was in a relationship with. But what is so sad for me when I look back on that time specifically is that I didn't live my life close enough to anyone that I felt like I had someone to reach out to and let them know that I was going through that. And that was just a really dark time. But it was the next day after that night that started me on my journey back to church. So this is an amazing story. I'll just give you the short version. But I remember going to bed thinking that night and just, just lost in my life. And the next morning, it was a Sunday morning, and my phone rang at like 8 in the morning. Like this is before cell phones, because again, I'm old. Yeah, so just a blaring loud ringing of a phone, and it woke me up, and I answered the phone, and it was an old Sunday school teacher that I had at church from when I used to go, because I would be in and out of church a little bit in high school, even like when I could drive. I'd go to youth group activities. I had a group of church friends and a group of school friends, and just did lots of different things. And so, but this old Sunday school teacher who I had not seen in years, probably I would say 60 years, maybe at least, called and said, Lisa, I can't believe I'm getting a hold of you. I finally found your number, but we're having like a get together reunion at the church this morning from our old Sunday school class. And I know that there are people there that would love to see you. And I just wanted to invite you. And this is like the day that it's happening. Well, number one, it was awkward. I couldn't believe it. Like, this man is calling me and I haven't seen him in probably 6 or 7 years. And I'm not the type of person that just shows up somewhere like that. Like, if I think I'm going to be uncomfortable walking in a door or walking back in a church or showing up by myself to something like that, no way. I'm not doing that. I remember hanging up the phone and then just getting the sense that I better just get up and go. Like, it was so out of character for me, but I did. I got up that morning, I was living in Norman. I was in college in Norman, drove all the way across Norman, Oklahoma City to get back to this church, like as a last minute thing. But that was how I started. It still took me a while, but that was how I started my journey back to church. And I think that was just such a God thing, because it got me out of bed the next morning after just the darkest time in my life. And how even when I think back on it now, Shauna, I'm like, that's amazing that happened.
I mean, whether you're spiritual in our audience or not, to hear that story, there is some higher power in this universe that made sure that happened. And there's so much beauty in that too, when you think back on just that was when we didn't change phone numbers all the time, and he had your number. And I think now, like, that could have easily been a Facebook message that you ignored. And just what a better time we lived in, just hearing that story.
I know, it's so true. And it just reminds me again, like, how often we get those nudges, oh, I should call someone, and how we just brush it off, or I meant to do it, but they probably don't really want to go have coffee with me, or we just excuse ourselves out of a lot of things that seem insignificant. But I think back, how uncomfortable or weird must it have been for that man to call me after all that time? I'm sure he was thinking, this girl, we haven't seen her in years, and she's in college, and I have no idea what she's doing. Like, why would I call her? And so it just reminds me of, we have to pay attention to those thoughts that are in our head when it comes to other people, because they're there for a reason.
Absolutely. That's such a beautiful story.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you met your husband through getting reconnected to the church, or
Yeah, almost. So this is okay. So this is another one of those like amazing kind of stories, how I walked into my husband's life. So I didn't immediately get back in church right after that, but I started just kind of on that road back to, I think there might be more for my life and where I'm headed. Changed some relationships and really just had a goal to get out of college. I just needed to graduate from school and go somewhere because I needed out of Norman. It just held a lot of this like bad memories for me. And so, and I had a lot of jobs up at that point. I had, supported myself since I was about 14. And so I'd never had problems getting part-time jobs and full-time jobs. And I worked my way through college. But when I was graduating from college, I could not get hired by anyone. It was the craziest thing. And I mean, I remember back in that day, I had some like retail sales experience just from working part-time jobs. And back in the day when I was in college, it was like, well, if you can't get hired into the management program at the Gap, then you are not employable. So I thought, well, I'm going to try that, because they'll, take any kind of college grad into their program. Even that, nothing. I couldn't get hired. But I needed out of Norman. So I graduated and I moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is a couple hours from Norman. My dad and his wife were living there at the time, and it was just like someplace where I could live for a few weeks until I got my own apartment or found a job or something. And so that's how I ended up in Tulsa, where I am now. And then it was shortly after that that I connected with my husband on another one of those nights. I had a part-time job waiting tables, and then I got a full-time job, but I was still waiting tables just to make some extra money. And the crowd that I was hanging around from the restaurant, not a great crowd. So there's this Friday night and I'm in an apartment just with these people I barely know. I'd probably worked there for 2 or 3 weeks. And then, they're drinking and just kind of having a party, but then they're pulling out some drugs and doing some different things. And I made a lot of poor choices, but I never dabbled in that. I don't know. I think I was just protected from going too far, because I really might have gone over the edge. But I'm in this apartment and I'm watching these people do drugs. And it's one of those moments where I'm sitting there thinking, Lisa, what are you doing with your life? Like, is this what you want with your life? And I left there and I went home. And then late that night, all I could think was, I think I need to find a church. I'm going to have to find a church. The next morning I got up and I called that old church that I used to go to in Oklahoma City that I did pop into every now and then. And they told me of a church to go to in Tulsa. And when I walked in, my husband was there. He was the youth pastor. He says that it was his day to take the visitors to lunch, and I happened to be the only one. And so he took me to lunch that very first day. And then from there, we did end up dating. So it was one of those, again, just moments in my life where I was like, this is what I have to do. I think I need to go. And then God just connected us together. So in hindsight, I see why I couldn't get a job anywhere, because I felt like, I can look back and see I was meant to be there. But it was just a strange twist of events, how it worked out.
You just have this cool story where everything you're able to look at it too from that lens of, okay, this happened for this reason. And I think that's important, because I think much like you were in that dark place, people can get really trapped there and not see that once they get past the storm, there could be like that beautiful rainbow that they say. And
and it took me a long time it did take me some time to see it that way, and looking back now, I'm like, wow, that really is an amazing thing. But it does. It takes some time to recognize those moments in your life.
So your big thing now is you're an author, outside of everything else that you're doing. What inspired you to start writing, or has that always been a passion of yours?
No, it really wasn't always a passion. About 2008, 2009, I started to get the feeling that I might want to do that. But up until then, so I got married in 92. And I married, of course, into the ministry, and I married to a pastor, but I am like ungroomed for that job. Like, I learned pretty quick. I've got no talent. I don't sing. I don't play an instrument. I don't really even talk to people. I don't pray for people. I don't pray out loud. Like, I was afraid. I could barely like put two sentences together. I was afraid of most people in church. It's amazing that my husband married me. It really is. But I had 4 kids very quickly. And so I hid behind my kids for a lot of years. And that was a great excuse to not step up and do anything, because I was still fighting all of that fear and insecurity that just had found its way in my life. And also hiding the fact of, if people in this church knew who I had been and what I've done, I'm like out of here, they're going to like not. And church in the 90s back then, it was a different place even than it is today. Thank the Lord, we've come a long ways, I think, in the way we treat people. But so it literally took me 10 years or so before I was really even beginning to like step up and teach a class, or, start to minister to women, or just kind of find my place. But when I did, I started liking to do some writing, just a little bit. But I always put it on the shelf because it just seemed like, no, you can't really do that. And then just in this past year, it came back, and it came back strong. And so it was like one of those things where I'm like, well, if this didn't go away after all this time, I just made a decision and did it. Sometimes you just have to make a decision and move forward without knowing what the outcome is going to look like. I mean, it's like, that's like the defining thing in my life at this point. We just have to step forward with some courage, even though we cannot plan exactly what it will look like when we get there.
That's so awesome. And can you share a little bit with our audience about what the book's about? And because it's kind of about your life, right?
Yeah, it does. It's not like a chronological order of my life, but it does have just stories intermingled with some humor. And 4 kids in 3 years, there's humor there. It's like raising those kids before Pinterest was even a thing. You couldn't even there was like no help for me back then. It's probably a good thing, because if I had tried to raise those kids in the shadow of like social media, I don't know if I would have survived it. I was already battling comparison before I knew that was really what we were all talking about now, but it's called Courageously Uncomfortable. And it's when the real woman you want to be is on the other side of fear. And it is about your life and being able to take courageous steps, even though you're still uncomfortable, but doing it anyways, just understanding that your best life, oftentimes for all of us, is just on the other side of what's comfortable for us. And so it's about facing your fears and battling your comfort zone and taking risks and, becoming vulnerable, surrounding yourself with some people. Isolation is such a big thing. I mean, it was a huge part of my life, and why I went through a lot that I did, because I wasn't really willing to let anybody know I might not be okay. And so, so it kind of tackles a lot of those things in a fun, there's some humor in it. And, I talk about some of those choices that I made. And so, yeah, but it's been good. It just launched in January, so it's pretty new in the world.
Well, congratulations. It's such an accomplishment.
Yeah.
And that's something that we ask all our guests, how you push through fear. And now, it's clearly so important in your life. I'm sure you're raising your 4 children to not be so caught up in it too.
Yeah, I definitely tried. But what I found out is you can tell your kids, oh, you don't have to be afraid, or you can be confident. You can even model it for them. But it really is something that you have to take on for yourself and get over. One of our kids struggles with anxiety, and I have 4 kids that have 4 different personality types, even our twins. Well, they're brother and sister. So we have 2 boys and 2 girls, but all of their personality types are super different, but raised same house, same rules, same, things that are going in and out of their heads, but they are all so different. Some are more afraid than others. Some, there's a little anxiety there. One of our oldest daughter's super driven, and our youngest son is going to medical school. I mean, they're all over the place. So I think fear really is, I think there's a little bit of fear in all of us, but I think there's a little bit of risk in all of us too. And it's just finding that match between those two and being able to push forward through it.
Yeah, you're so right. I have 2 children, and they couldn't be more opposite. But
funny how that could be.
Yeah, I can't imagine 4 different personalities, but you are a saint, especially 3 under 3. Like, that's just in my mind.
I just it's just a blur. I barely remember a lot of it. And I don't even say that. Like I just know we survived the days, but I don't remember a lot of the details. That's
Just one day they were grown.
The downside to that many kids all at once is that you just can't focus on the details. I mean, there were women that did, but that wasn't me.
And that's okay.
Yeah, I just survived it. That's what I did.
I think you survived it very well.
Yeah, thank you.
So you've been following the red bra. You know that is our significant, the red bra signifies a bold and confident, whether it's underneath your clothes or outside of it. But when you red bra moment,
I love that. Mm-hmm.
I mean, mine was hitting the record button tonight. But what is your if you can reflect on one of the things that you've done, one of the many?
Yeah. Well, I think it would probably have to go back to, I'm just in talking with you tonight, when I look back at those really brave moments in my life where I shouldn't have been able to take the step, but I did. Because when I took a step even to answer that phone call that morning and actually go, it's so against everything that rises up in a person to, you don't belong, you'll be embarrassed, you can't, just that fighting that inner voice. And so that moment for me was kind of that strength of being able to, like, wow, you really can do some like hard things. I love that saying, like, beautiful girl, you can do hard things. You really can. Even though everything in your mind wants to tell you that you can't, but if you'll just take a step and get there. And so I think those moments that were super unexpected, and defied anything that I should have done, but I did anyways, would be kind of those moments for me.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. And I'm going to go back to the fact that you look so young and you live off of a sugar diet. That's just what I also try and do. So I am going to highly encourage it.
Well, I feel like I grew up in like I didn't have much money growing up. So I grew up on a sturdy diet of like Little Debbie's. They were like 99.
Little Debbie's and Star Crunch.
I still love those. Like a ho-ho. Oh my goodness. So good.
But I also saw you're a coffee drinker. So what's your coffee of choice?
Yeah. So, well, I am a huge Starbucks fan, but I got this really cool. So I'll get that anytime I'm out. I mean, I'll never pass one, or if somebody wants to go, I don't ever turn it down. But for Christmas, so one of my kids got me this. I guess it's kind of like a pour over type of a thing, but you don't have to put a filter in it, but literally you put ground coffee in and you pour the water in and it steeps for a few minutes. And my kids are like, you can't drink that Keurig coffee anymore, Mom. Like, that stuff is bad. I think I have a couple of coffee snobs in my family that I raised my kids, because I'm pretty fine with Keurig coffee. But now I have this pour over thing, and it really does make the best coffee. So I just got back from Costa Rica a couple of weeks ago, and I spoke at a women's conference there. And so I brought back this like freshly, like, they grow their coffee beans right there in Costa Rica. It was really cool. I saw like a coffee plantation. It is the best coffee ever, that you just kind of fresh brew with just some hot water. So good. Really good.
Your kids were onto something.
Yeah. I can't remember what my little contraption is called. It's not a French press. It's different than that.
Okay.
It has some fancy name, so I don't know, but it's easy to use. And so
we can link it later in Instagram.
Yeah, I'll have
and our guests, where can they find you? And where can they find your book too?
Yeah, so you can find the book. It's on Amazon. So it's Courageously Uncomfortable. It's also on my website, which is lisajgoins.com. That's the same as my Instagram as well. So if you buy it on the website, you get a free little gift with it from Price Gift Co. But it's easily bought, Amazon, one click, it's on its way. So that's easy too.
Well, we will make sure that we linked all of that up on our page too.
Okay. Yeah, that's great.
There's so much more to share about Lisa. We hope that you guys start following her on her page, that you go out and you get her book, and we're going to keep following your journey, because I think that there's more things that the universe is going to bring your way. This is just too incredible of coincidence for these things to be happening. So
yeah, I agree. Well, I'm excited to follow your journey as well, and just all the women that you keep finding and featuring. That it's amazing. I just really love the power of story and how it pushes other people forward. And you guys are really an amazing example of that.
Well, thank you. And your story is definitely one that I know is going to resonate with so many people. We end every show with a quote, and I found one that I thought was kind of fitting for you, kind of perfectly fitting. Difficult roads lead to beautiful destinations. And I just feel like,
Oh,
especially all this universe talk, like everything that you
I
went through,
know.
there is
Oh, I
nothing you would
love
change for
that.
where you are now. And
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. So,
so
so
grateful that
good.
you were able to join us. I'm sorry that Renee can't be here. We might need to do a
Yeah.
part two because I think she's going to really feel like she missed out on this one. So,
Yeah. Well, I'd love to connect again. That would be fun.
but thank you so much. And to our audience, if you know the drill, if you have not subscribed already, please hit the subscribe button, ring that bell so you get notifications, and make sure that you follow Lisa and all of our exciting stuff that's happening over on the Red Bra Project on Instagram, and we will link all of her information there as well. So thank you, everyone, and thank you again, Lisa, and we hope you have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye bye.